everybody, this is Caitlin here, and welcome back to Geeky Sunday, but technically on a Monday this week. This week I was rather busy at the weekend. I was working pretty much all weekend, and I was so busy I didn't have the time to upload or even record the video for Geeky Sunday this week, so apologies, and that's why it's coming up late on the Monday. But for this week we're talking about the second week of the Summer of Stephen, what was happening. Well, mainly talking about the more interesting aspects that came out this week. The first two episodes, which were Restaurant Wars and Kiki's Pizza Delivery Service, they were pretty interesting and cool episodes. They were pretty funny and, you know, nice little kind of like slice of life towns episodes, but they're not really like the kind of the bulk of what we're going to be talking about in this video. This video we're going to be really talking about Alone at Sea and Monster Reunion and just a little bit of Greg the Babysitter. Not much about that because I mainly want to talk about those first two episodes in terms of what the overarching plot is and some lore that we found out about gems. So, big reveal happened in Monster Reunion. Spoilers, by the way, if you've not seen any of the episodes, I highly advise watching them first before going into this video. Monster Reunion, Stephen's healing spit saliva power is back, which is a really weird power for him to have in the first place, but for some reason it's back, and you know, he wants to use it to try and help one of the bubbled gems, and instantly he thinks of Centipede, which, you know, tugged at my heartstrings a bit because his first thought went to Centipede, who he promised that he was going to try and find a way to help her, or it, because we don't really still know the gender of Centipede. But one of the interesting things that came out from this episode is that we now have a definition between corrupted gems and cracked gems. So just to like put it into context, so for instance, Lapis was a cracked gem. She was able to maintain her original body, but she didn't have like full access to her full power or potential. So she was able to still, you know, use the ocean or whatever and steal it and all this stuff, but for some reason she was unable to actually produce her water wings, which is like a pretty, like, it seemed like a simple power to do, but she wasn't able to do it. And I think the main reason she wasn't able to do it is because the water comes from her gem when she uses that power, and the gem was obviously cracked, so she couldn't produce that power that she had, because Garnet summarised it in that corrupted gem, they have a tear in their mind, so it's more psychological, which makes sense because a cracked gem is a physical problem with the gemstone itself. Corruption is something different. It's something that came from the diamonds, because when Centipede was reformed or came back, she wasn't her whole self. She still had the monster elements like the snapping jaw and everything, and she chirped a lot and stuff like that, so she wasn't fully formed yet because she still had that corruption in her mind, which I think is really interesting. So we don't really know full of what the diamond's corruption is. When certain people was trying to like draw it out or whatever to explain to Stephen what happened to her, he was saying it was a sound. No, was it a song? So it seems like it's either some kind of frequency, or maybe it's a song that the diamonds sing. Maybe they have some kind of weird song, almost like a siren or something like that, that physically corrupts the minds of gems to the point where, like, they just break down and they can no longer form like their first form. They're degraded into monsters, which I think was like really interesting, considering the fact that this obviously affected their own soldiers. They were that desperate to end the rebellion that they didn't care. There was like collateral damage to them, which makes them seem really like horrible leaders, and yet they're revered by, like, they were revered by Peridot anyway, but it seems like they're so callous as to they were just sacrificed so many gem lives and their own soldiers, not even caring about their own army, because Centipede said that they came from Homeworld, they were a Homeworld gem. She, I'm saying she because I think it's a she, but she had a whole crew, and, like, you know, she was like, she cared for that crew. She was desperate to find them again, but she didn't understand why, like, this happened to her. Like, she was crying when she was remembering it. Like, Stephen saw her cry, which really tugged at my heartstrings. I was just getting so emotional because I felt for her. I felt so much for her, and she was desperate to find her crew and, like, find a way to go back home or something like that, or at least find her crew. And, like, she was slowly, like, deforming back into her monster form, and even Stephen Spit couldn't even, like, fix her up again. It seemed like it was only a one-time fix. And which I found really sad, because, like, it was just, you could see her distress, like, as like her hand was forming back into the little centipedal leg, and as, like, she was slowly, like, crawling on all fours and everything. It looked so horrendous and, like, really hurtful, and, like, it really got to me. Like, I was actually like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for her. But by the end of the episode, she found the spaceship, which was hers. Her crew were waiting inside there. She found them. She reunited with them. And, you know, that was, like, a good thing, but it just meant that, you know, for now, Stephen can't help corrupted gems. He can help cracked gems, apparently. He can't help corrupted ones. But I think that's going to play out into the future, because obviously Stephen has these dream powers, and he was able to kind of utilise them to help bubble the cluster. So I think if he was able to communicate to all those like fragmented personalities and gems in this cluster, and able to talk to them, I think he'll be able to use his dream powers in the future to help heal the minds of corrupted gems. Maybe not now, maybe we won't see it again until like the end of season 3, because, you know, season 3 is apparently going to last another 2 weeks and maybe go on a little bit more, because after the summer, Stephen, it seems usual scheduling is going to resume and we're going to get 1 episode every week. But maybe in the future we're going to return to this power and examine it a bit more and see what could happen with it. Maybe he figures out how he can help these gems, and, you know, his first thought will be to go back to Centipede People in the ship and help her and our crew, which would be really interesting. I'm trying to think of anything else that came out from that episode. It was also interesting to know that the gems do have their own language, which, you know, we've kind of seen in glimpses before. It's capable of being handwritten, which is quite interesting. But Centipede People knew it, and the gems could read it from her own drawings and her own writing, because they knew where to find Stephen and Centipede People, which is interesting, because when Stephen first asked, why don't you write your name so I know what to really call you, because obviously he doesn't know which gem Centipede People is meant to be. It's not made obvious, because it's a very vague looking gem. It's like a sphere, it's green, but it's got like black lines through it. It's not a very clear cut gem. But she wrote down her name, and obviously Stephen couldn't understand it because it was written in gem. But that makes me think the crystal gems must know her name now, because she clearly wrote it and they were able to read it back, because they said it's quite legible for her writing as like a monster or whatever. So they know her name, or at least they may know her name. They may not like have like read that part of the paper or whatever, but it seems like they have read over what she wrote. They must know her name, or at least what gem she is, and they must know she's from Homeworld. So I think there might be like some kind of secret that maybe they're still hiding from Stephen. Like they don't want to discuss it. They must have known more of the Homeworld gems than they're letting on, because it feels like, you know, well, at least Ruby and Sapphire, they came from Homeworld. Pearl must have came from Homeworld as well, because she arrived there with Rose, so she came there as well. Obviously, Amethyst is the only one who did not come from Homeworld. She came from Earth, so she probably wouldn't know. But I find that interesting. I think Garnet and Pearl are maybe hiding something that they're not letting on. But moving on from that episode and going into Alone at Sea, this is obviously the episode that Stephen was going to try and cheer up Lapis with the boat to try and get her over her kind of hesitation to be near water again. So she went off with Greg and Stephen in the boat, trying to like get used to it again and go fishing and blah blah blah. But she revealed a lot about her inner turmoil, about you know, how when she was cracked, she was, you know, she stole the ocean, she broke Stephen's dad's leg. She was like in turmoil about that. But then she also revealed she missed being Malachite, which, considering that it's been stated, like, even by the Crewniverse and everything like that, that Malachite is the worst fusion possible, because it's just made of anger and bitterness and hatred, and, like, it's the most volatile fusion you could have. And to hear Lapis say that she missed it, it's, like, really, like, it's almost, like, creeping, going into, like, kind of sadistic and like a little bit sordid. Like she misses holding Jasper, like she admits this herself, she misses trapping Jasper, she misses taking her anger out on her through the fusion. So like it's clearly established this was a very bad relationship, and Lapis says that she did miss it in some form. And then obviously the big reveal of this episode, Jasper like appeared briefly, but she was desperate to be Malachite again, which I think says a lot about how much this fusion changed Jasper. Because when Jasper was first seen, she was very cool and calculated and this really strong gem who's like, oh, fusion is just a way to make weak gems stronger. She was very, very adamant about that. She hated fusion. And then suddenly, when she like succumbs to it and she was trapped in this fusion for so long, she no longer wants to be Jasper. She wants to be, well, she wanted to be Malachite. She wanted to be the stronger gem that she knew that she could be. And she said, oh, I'm a brute, but Lapis was a monster. But she's not saying that in a bad way. She's admiring her for it. She's admiring Lapis for being this monstrous gem that the two of them that could be together, and she misses it. But then when Lapis, I was very, very scared Lapis was going to say yes and was going to form Malachite again. And I was going to be like, oh, here we go again. She's going to drag her to the bottom of the ocean again and we're going to be doing Chill Tide all over again. But Lapis said no, which was really good. And I think is a really strong point for her character development, is that she could learn to let go of Malachite. She doesn't need Malachite anymore, which was a really, really good thing to see. But obviously Jasper lashed out at Stephen now because she sees Stephen as the reason why Lapis won't fuse with her. So, you know, she attacked Steven, and then Lapis responded by uppercutting Jasper into the ocean again with the water. So Jasper is off in the distance, probably drowning somewhere again. But it's really interesting to see how far Jasper has fallen. Now, I don't know whether, I've been hearing like different news back and forth, saying either Jasper will get either a redemption arc or B, a corruption arc, which I could see the latter more so. I see her being corrupted, so maybe not in the sense of that she's going to be succumb to, like, say, something from directly from the diamonds, because obviously the diamonds still don't know where Jasper is. They think she's maybe on Neptune now that the rubies have gone there. But I think she's going to seek out someone she can fuse with. And if she can't fuse with Lapis, she can't fuse with the crystal gems, obviously. She may even not know that Peridot is still on Earth, because I don't think she would choose to fuse with Peridot, because clearly she doesn't think that Peridot is all that, or whatever. Like, clearly Peridot's, as far as she's aware, Peridots don't have any kind of power to, like, contribute, so she probably won't be looking for Peridot. I think she's going to be looking for corrupted gems, like the monsters that are still out there roaming the Earth, or maybe pieces of the cluster that are still wandering about the cluster experiments. She's going to be seeking those out, I think. I think that's going to be the main plot point with her now. She's going to be seeking those out, and since they are mindless monsters in themselves, they probably don't, like, I feel like cracked gems probably can't fuse, but a corrupted gem probably still could. But that fusion would be very, very volatile. And, you know, maybe, you know, it would be even, like, abusive, because clearly only Jasper would be the one with will to, like, with intelligence and able to control the fusion, and basically the corrupted gem would just be subject to that. So I don't know how that's going to go down. I feel like that is going to be a plot point. Whether it's going to be soon or later on in the season, I don't know, but I feel like it's not the last we've seen of Jasper. Jasper's going to come back and, like, do something anyway. But I'm trying to think now. I can't really think of anything I want to talk about from Greg the Babysitter, other than the fact that it introduces, like, the plot point that maybe this was what stemmed the idea that Rose wanted to have a child or something like that. But other than that, it was mainly those two episodes that I really wanted to talk about. But in terms of this week, because I'm technically recording this and uploading this on Monday, this week I've not seen any of the promos, any of the spoilers, apart from the fact that I know that tonight's episode is called Gem Hunt, and I'm pretty sure that this week is the week with the half-an-hour special called Bismuth, which I think is on Thursday, because there's no episode on Friday, I'm pretty sure. So the Crewniverse has been pretty specific in that they don't want people to share spoilers or, like, share leaks or anything like that, or any promos, because they want weeks 3 and 4 to be totally unspoiled for people, because they specifically said these are going to be big weeks. So I'm not going to be looking for spoilers or anything like that. I'm going to wait until I've seen them all, and then I'll probably only upload the video on Sunday as normal, hopefully, like, and with a very big warning that unless you've not seen the episodes and you want spoilers specifically, don't watch the video, because I will be discussing it, because I feel like this week is going to be the really big kicking point, and where stuff is going to hit the fan, and it's going to be really, really big. So that's everything for this kind of summarising of this week in Steven Universe. I'm looking forward to the end of this week and what we're going to find out. I'm really, really excited. So until next time, guys, I will see you all later.